Happy Saturday to you. It is, what is today's date? Oh my goodness. Today is April. We already passed the mid-mark. Today's the 18th. It is the 18th, isn't it? Yeah. Well, anyway, happy Saturday. I love iridescence. Y'all see this? Isn't this beautiful? Anything that's in this family of colors. I'm not crazy about black background for iridescence, but when it has this look, you can see the purples and the blues and the greens. O.M. gracious. I love it. Anyway, just want to chat about something today. My mother is the one in the family who I would say has a green thumb. And I remember being a child going out with her in the yard and helping her with the gardening. But it was never something that I aspired to do on my own, just because, I've always been more into beauty and nails and the idea of earth getting up under my fingernails and making them look dirty just repulsed me. So I would just, leave that to her. And whenever I would help her, I'd wear gloves or something. But anyway, my mother has this muscadine vine on the side of the house. And we got fruit from it for a couple of years. And this is usually the time of year that it buds and starts showing signs of producing fruit, right? And I started paying attention to it more so in the recent past since I've had more time, with this quarantine and everything. And I noticed that it was very dry looking, and I asked her about pruning it, and she described her understanding of how you prune a muscadine vine or a grapevine. So I pruned it down the way she said to prune it. And there were some weeds around it, and it was very dry, just like really dehydrated, like dry. And I decided, you know what, I just want to try to work on this and try to help it out a little bit. So while digging up the roots of the weeds, there was this green leafy something that, because I'm not a gardener, I don't always recognize something that is a weed or that's a plant. And my mother, she's more knowledgeable about that because of her understanding. So I asked her, what is that? And mind you, it had nice big leaves sprouting up. She was like, that's a weed. I was like, that's a weed? What? So when I was trying to dig out the root of that thing, the root of that thing was like, if you've ever purchased like rutabagas, or what's another good example? It's something called jicama, which looks like it's a white root. It's not as hard to cut as turnip or rutabaga, but the root of it had that look to it. And when I dug around it with the shovel, I was only able to get half of it out because of the positioning of it. I have to go out there and try to get the rest of it out. But there are 2 points where the muscadine vine was coming up through the dirt, and the root of this weed was wedged in between them and right near the surface of the dirt, but in the way of the root of the vines for the muscadine. And it was like I was thinking about that. My mother has a way of asking for what kind of spiritual application there could be when you see something like that. So I started thinking about that. And I was thinking about the fact that the muscadine vine is what we desire to get the fruit from. That was what she planted, right? Then you have these green leaves sprouting up, looking lively, looking vibrant. Meanwhile, the thing that she planted looked like it's about dead. And what I thought of was, when you have people around you who suck life, because what was happening was the nourishment that should have been for the muscadine was being sucked up by these pretty looking weeds. That's all they were, was weeds, but they looked pretty. They were green and vibrant and lively, but they were weeds. And the fact that the root of this most beautiful weed was wedged in between the two places where the muscadine vine was coming up through the surface, it was like trying to dig up the root of that caused me to almost dig up the root of the muscadine vine. And again, I started thinking about the wheat and the tare. The two of them grow up together. And God says at the day of harvesting, he will do the separating. All of that was coming to my mind as I was trying to dig up this huge root. And it just made me really think about how conscious we have to be about who's around us. Sometimes people are around you. They may look good, they may sound good, but they could be literally stealing life from you, sucking life from you, choking life out of you. They could be stealing things from you and taking things from you that you need. And I'm not saying to be selfish. I'm not saying that you shouldn't want the best for other people. But what I am saying is when a relationship crosses over to that point where they are literally sucking life from you, it is time for you to separate. It is time for you to cut them off. You know, if the help that you're extending to someone else is killing you, you got to get rid of it. And I was thinking about that thing. I was getting those weeds up and getting the root of that big weed out. And I was like, this is something. This weed is really flourishing in this soil. And this muscadine vine's about dead. Y'all, I cut all of because the way the muscadine vine grows up, it grows up and then it spirals around. And we had these wires kind of draped across to give the vine something to grow on. And even those were hard and crunchy. And you know what? I decided, okay, I'm not a person who normally bothers with this kind of thing, but I'm going to go ahead and speak life over that little muscadine vine. And I cut away all of the twigs and branches, and the little part of the vine that had grown up on the wire, it was wrapped around it so tightly that I couldn't get it off. So I didn't want that to be in the way of when the new one comes up. So I just pushed them to the extreme ends as far as I could get them, and basically left a clean slate and a clean palette for the new vines when they grow up. Why am I talking about this? I'm talking about this because that is definitely a word picture for what we need to do in our lives. Sometimes there are some parts of our lives that aren't producing fruit, that have dried up. Sometimes they're old, wrong mindsets. And sometimes it takes the washing of the water by the word to really get those things off. So while I know I really could get those dried up parts of the vine off if I really put some work in, I didn't want to put that kind of work in at that moment. My main focus was getting the soil to a place where it could receive more water and getting those weeds up. But that's a spiritual lesson. Sometimes you just have to move those things out of the way and make room for the improvements. And you know what? Let the water of the word wash away those things that are not producing fruit, that are not conducive to the direction that you're going in. Yeah, that's all I want to talk about today. I keep turning this. I'll try to see how pretty this is. Gorgeous! Look at that green right there. Look at the green right there, that turquoise. Isn't it bird of fur? It's bird of fur. Lovely. Anyway, I hope that you all are staying well and being safe. I hope that you're continuing to trust God. I hope that you're continuing to work out some things. This is a book. See here? I just put it out because it helps to make the colors in this really stand out. But I've been working on some things this week. Cleaning out some things. Cleaning up some things. And it feels like I'm cleaning out my brain. I don't know how else to describe that. It just brings me joy to be able to work on some of these projects here at the house. Don't let this time pass you by. Yes, of course, we all want this to be over. We want to get back to our routines and our schedules. But don't miss this opportunity to work on those things that are staring you in the face. Don't run from them. Don't run anymore. I spent plenty of time running from things that I shouldn't have been running from. But you know what? Running from them didn't take them away, didn't make them disappear, didn't diminish the need that I had to deal with them. So just deal with that stuff you got to deal with. Deal with it. So pretty. These are the kinds of things that make me smile. This is something that's usually on my desk at work, but because we've been working from home, I brought this here with me because I know it's something that just makes me smile. Even when I'm sitting at my desk, and sometimes, you know, the stress of the job may get to me at a moment, but it's nice to have little things like this around you, things in your environment that make you smile, things that you enjoy, that you like. You know, it's the little things in life. Anywho, take care, be well, stay safe. Thank you for watching. Thank you for subscribing. And I will see you on the next video. Take care. Bye-bye.